I got my ex-GF excluded from the work environment because she badmouthed me after we broke up. Warning, some audiences may find this content disturbing. View at your own discretion. Welcome to the House of Reddit. Today, we share some of the recent r/pro revenge stories posted on Reddit. I got my ex-GF excluded from the work environment because she badmouthed me after we broke up. For clarification, I was 20 when this happened and I'm also a male who treats everyone the best I can. When I started my first job while studying for a degree, I met this woman who is a B word. We started to hit into each other and everything went well. She had an abusive BF and then they broke up, so we started dating. That dating time was like one day lol. We finished the training phase, so we started working attention calls for a shitty internet company. The work was stressful to a Mexican sales support because customers and reps treated us like shit. Enough background, let's jump into the story. After we broke up for some stupid reason she made up, I forgot why, she started to say that I was abusive, even that I forced myself into her. The thing is that people and me started to get all annoyed at her behavior because everyone knew how nice I was with the customers, managers and other people in my work environment. Well, she continued throw shit at me, so we all decided to record the conversations and messages trying to destroy my reputation. We ended gathering like 100 messages and even got her recorded being the good person she was against me. After a few weeks of gathering info, I went to HR to give my evidence against her because the rumors spread even to HR and they were trying to fire me. I delivered the information and one by one of my coworkers started to being called to give their statements. It took like 1 hour until every single one of my coworkers were called in. She got called, I got a big apology from HR for being targeted in a hostile environment, and she was fired right away. The thing is that she also needed the money for school and HR would not give her a recommendation letter from the company. She dropped out of school and now working at a supermarket that, even if it is a lot of miles from where I usually bought my stuff, I still use it as my location to buy groceries, and I went at the same hour she works at the same register. I just smile and say how is school? And then leave. Try to stiff rent money owed? Enjoy having your drug habit exposed and losing your new house. Hello again everyone. I've another story from my dad and he allowed me to share it here. Honestly, when I first heard it from him I thought it would be a petty revenge, but the consequences were much more than that, so I'll assume it'll be r/pro revenge material. The story: my dad had tried his hand in renting out houses, albeit it's only one house and he had only one renter. He's a soft heart, and couldn't bear to force a family into the streets when rent wasn't paid. The renter was his work colleague, and they were acquainted at best. This man would give every excuse in the book when he couldn't pay his rent, all of them relating to his toddler son. Medical bills for his son, formula and diapers, birthday gifts, so on and so forth. My dad accepted these excuses, allowing his colleague to delay the payment and never once tried to deduct from the deposit. 6 months later, his renter decided to move out. Turns out the jackass bought himself a nice terrace house out in a good suburban area. He knew my dad was a patient and generous man and decided to take advantage of that. My dad, in his words, was pissed, but more than that, disappointed. He decided that he'll stop renting as he figured he would lose more than what he'll earn. Thus, the house was sold. A few days later, my dad approached his colleague wanting to know why he'd stiffed him of his rent money. This took place in the middle of the office with everyone still at their cubicles or milling around. Dad, colleague. I've heard you bought a house. If you had money for the house, why couldn't you pay for the rent? Colleague, you know or not my son keeps falling sick? Ever since I stayed at that house you rent my son always fever, always coughing. Dad, what has that got to do with me or that house? Colleague, I think I know why. That house is haunted. Got jinn, genie, malevolent or mischievous, and shaitan, devil/demon. You're a new Muslim convert, right? Something must have been pissed at you for converting. Because of that, my son is suffering. For context, us Malaysians still hold on to some superstition, though it's more prevalent in the older generations. Be it due to culture or religion, superstitious beliefs are still embedded here. A rented house being haunted usually means little to no potential renters, and a sullied reputation. This ticked my dad off. At this point, everyone had tuned into this drama being unfolded. Raising his voice, he laid down the truth bomb. Dad, I stayed in that house for 2 years with my wife and small children. Nothing happened. You know why your son keeps falling sick? When I went to inspect that house to sell it, the whole place reeked of drugs. Every room in the house smells like marijuana. Your son keeps falling sick is because you smoke drugs around him 24/7. If you ever been slammed by the truth so hard that it left you speechless, that was essentially what happened. Colleague was stunned. Mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for breath, before turning around and walking away. My dad, having vented that, left to do his own business. Colleague not denying outright that he didn't do drugs caused the rumor to spread like wildfire, with him ending up needing to do a drug test. Unsurprisingly, he failed that, which led to him being let go. Now you may think that's the end. Drug use in Malaysia is seriously frowned upon here, even if you do it recreationally. Not to mention that other job prospects usually looked into your record, and reason for resigning your last job, having being let go due to failing a drug test, is an automatic resume into the bin. No job means no income. No income means colleague can't make the monthly installments for his new house. As my dad found out, it has been auctioned off by colleague's bank to another buyer. As he told me this, my dad never wanted to ruin colleague's life like that. He told me he should have just kept his mouth shut, that him knowing colleague was doing drugs in close proximity to his son was good leverage for colleague to pay his rent. It was in the heat of the moment action and such. Dad never pressed to get his 6 months of rent money back. Considered it halal, meaning in his eyes, colleague's debt to him was voided. I don't know. Perhaps this was just karma by God for colleague lying to my dad and stiffing him his rent money. Just needed my dad to be a pawn in his plan to punish colleague in this life. The revenge was undeniably unplanned, but goddamn is it pro to me. Try to squeeze my dad for his money, tough luck. He knows money. Apologies for the format because I'm on mobile yada yada yada. Also, this is second hand from my father and some words or phrasings may be mistranslated. The background: back during the 1997 Asian financial crisis, Malaysia was hit pretty hard, especially the small independent banks. The Prime Minister at the time, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, passed a bill to save the banking economy by having all the larger corporate banks buy out the smaller independent banks. At the same time, he made the One Malaysia home loan policy. Under this, all larger banks that bought out the smaller independent banks must send an acknowledgement letter to the home loaners of their original bank stating the home loan change and must receive an acknowledgement from their new loaners, be it a signature, physical or digital. The story: my dad never liked how banks can legally rob people. For people like him who works the daily grind, having to pay the bank what is essentially 2 houses worth in interest payments over 2 or 3 decades is just plain wrong in his eyes. He strives to one day screw a bank over like how they screw their customers, a contract. Be it sheer dumb luck or as God listened to his prayers and decided to grant him that opportunity, that was what he got. When my dad bought our family's first home, he got a loan from a small bank called DCB Bank. All is well, until a few years later the 1997 financial crisis hit. As the small banks were bought out by the larger banks, many home loaners received acknowledgement papers on their new home loan payment plan and policies by their new banks. My dad for whatever reason never received this. He only knew that his original bank was bought over by the RHB Bank Corporation, and that he is now unofficially their customer. My dad was frugal with his money and God bless him, financially literate. He knew that if he made a full settlement against his principal loan, he can avoid paying 30 years worth of interest installments. Sometime in 2007, he went to a RHB Bank branch nearby to make a full settlement, and this is how it went down. RHB employer: I'm sorry sir. Even if you made a full settlement, you would still need to continue making payments for the interest. Dad: what do you mean? I have a home loan contract under DCB that states I can make a full settlement without paying for additional interests. RHB employer: true, but since you've acknowledged and signed under RHB. Dad: I've never received the acknowledgement papers. I never signed any papers from your bank, and all I have here is the DCB Bank contract. RHB employer: sir. Under the One Malaysia home loan. Dad: you have to send acknowledgement letters about the loan transfer. Yes, I know. What I want now is for you, RHB Bank, to produce my signature of me acknowledging the new loan policy for RHB. As of now, My paper with DCB is still valid until you produce my signature. Q1 hour of the employer and her colleagues scrambling around their files and databases trying to find any acknowledgement from my dad about their loan contract. At this time, the manager of the bank had called my dad into his office to discuss this problem. It basically had went from civil to a shouting match that can be heard in the neighboring food stalls. My dad couldn't remember most of what was said, but the end of it was what he could still clearly remember, and to his son, it was probably one hell of a badass convo ender. Manager: I'm sorry Mr. Muhammad, but you still need to make the interest payments, regardless of whether you make a full settlement. Dad: alright. I understand. I'll just have take this up to Bank Negara, National Bank of Malaysia. Let them help you find that signature of mine. My dad had the bank manager by the balls now. Rather risking a potential $1 million lawsuit and possibly losing his job, he excused himself to make a few phone calls to upper management, which took about half an hour. After said phone calls were done, the manager approached my dad, and agreed to the full settlement without the additional interest installments. To add salt to the wound, my dad requested that they have his housing grant ready within the week, to which they delivered. All in all, my dad managed to secure himself a house, the housing grant, and in the process screwed RHB Bank of what is equal to $60,000 worth of interest payments, which to a middle-class Malaysian in 2007 is a retirement fund. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Turn on the notifications to know when we post new videos. Thank you for coming to the House of Reddit.